All right, hi guys. Thank you everybody who's watching this right now. This is a project I'm recording with my brother over here, as you guys can all see. And yeah, this is basically just a conversation. I want to make more YouTube content. I was advised to do so by Unisonar, my dear friend Nick. Shout out to Nick, by the way. He's a beast. And so yeah, I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with my brother. We often talk about stuff, and yeah, we decided we wanted to record it. So today we're recording our conversation, and then, you know, if we hit on something that's important, we're going to chop it up and share it on our social media accounts because we're very active on social media. So you guys know who I am already because I'm always putting my face on your screen. But EJ, go ahead and give an introduction, my man. What is your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
What's up, guys? My name is Ethan. Obviously, same last name as Benji. My name is Ethan Pillar. Because we're married. Because we're brothers. We both live here in South Korea, but I live on a tiny island at the bottom. Basically Dumpville. There's like nothing that happens here. My dream is to be a life coach and a mentor to lots of people, but currently I'm just here, so using Instagram to live vicariously.
Yeah.
But
Which is what we all do, and that's why we watch these videos, because we want to peek into the lives of other people who are interesting. Now, as EJ, is it okay if I call you EJ for this live stream? It's cool, right? Okay, yeah. EJ is my nickname for him. Obviously, his real name is Ethan, but I'll be calling him EJ. So the reason that we are together right now talking like this is because we both have a very deep passion for helping people, for inspiring people, and for helping other people to live their best lives, to use modern terminology. You know, we're both very passionate about, you know, living a life that we love, a life that we believe in, and it costs nothing except for time and some effort to share it with other people. So that's what this conversation is all about. It's all about self-development. It's all about life fulfillment. It's all about personal improvement. So to begin the conversation, earlier tonight we were talking privately, and we were talking about where to start on getting help. EJ, if it's okay to give the audience some context.
yeah.
You had a conversation with someone. What would that conversation generally go like?
Okay, so I was contacted by the lady, and she was feeling basically lost. She is actually interesting because when I first got her message, it was basically, she was just like, she literally started off the first time she had ever messaged, like, hey, you're a life, tell me what to do. That was like the first message she sent, like, hey, you're a life coach, tell me what to do. And then in the second message, she explained the problem. And when she was talking about her, you know, quote unquote problem, her struggle, however you want to frame it, it was really weird because she was just saying unrelated event and how she felt about it. Like literally just a bunch of unrelated that happened recently last month and how she felt. I'm angry about this really feel sad. And then she's like, at the very end of that, she just attached on another sentence, and she was like, because of these things, I'm feeling a lack of motivation. How can I fix it? And then just sent a message. So it was really interesting to get that kind of message. It's like, hey, I have a problem. And it's like, okay, well, what's your problem? And it's like just a bunch of random things that have happened to you and how you feel about them. And then because of these things, I'm feeling a lack of motivation. Please help me. And yeah, it was super interesting, mainly because it didn't feel like she had any experience trying to help herself, trying to find a way to make herself more happy than she was feeling. And instead, she was just so prone to looking to other people that it was easier for her to send a message to some random guy she didn't even know, who just said like, hey, I'm a life coach in his bio. Just send a message to him.
Because those are so believable.
So believable. And just send a message to him and just be like, hey, tell me what to do. And I think that, to be honest, that's, of course, it's not the way that I approached the counseling. Like, I didn't tell her like, you need to blah, blah, blah. Firstly, because I don't believe that that's, you know, the right thing to do as a counselor. And secondly, because I don't even know what I would tell someone in that situation to do. Like, you need to do this. So that's not how I approached it. But if I had approached it, to be honest, she probably would have done whatever I had said to do.
Yeah.
Simply because it seemed like in that situation, she was just looking for any out. Just any out at all. Just someone give me an out, I'll take it. She doesn't care who that person is. or what their background is, or whether or not it feels credible.
So I want to throw a
She's
few
just,
things
like,
out there real quick
bringing it
before we
up.
move forward and dissect that, because thank you for explaining it in a very clear way. So first of all, no judgment to this woman, right? She's living her life, and it's a very natural response. And like as me and you are going back and
There's
forth,
actually a happy ending to the story.
yeah, good. And so as we're going back and forth here, like we're not judging her whatsoever. It's more of just like reflections, observations of the situation. None of us have made it to where we want to be completely. We're all on the way there. And secondly, her situation is very typical for a lot of us. I think it's never one thing that happens and we just suddenly break down over it. It's usually multiple things that add up, and then it becomes overwhelming for us. And that state of being overwhelmed is what leads us to a lot of desperation and a lot of unhappiness. And obviously, lack of motivation, feeling depressed, feeling angry, suicidal, and all this kind of stuff. So, being overwhelmed is a very natural feeling, and it's usually a place that a lot of people get to before they actually start realizing that they need help. Okay, so then to jump into the conversation to dissect that, we have this subject, and she has a bunch of issues going on. She has a bunch of emotional reactions to them. She feels very, very overwhelmed. She reaches out to you for help, doesn't even know you. That's how desperate she is. What approach did you take to giving her guidance, and what can other people do who are also feeling very overwhelmed?
So, the most interesting thing that I found chatting over a very, very short amount of, because like the first interaction happened, I want to say yesterday evening hours, and then like by today around 8 p.m. was like when she sent me a message that she was just like gonna move on because everything was like, so it was like maybe a little more than 24 hours, or like just there at the all of these interactions were going on in. And I think that it was really interesting because the whole time I had this feeling, as for like just personally for myself, I had this feeling like, oh man, I need to try hard to give this person my time, just because like as a person I love to do that. But I think that overwhelmingly thing that I felt the most looking at the situation as a whole was how insignificant I was in the overall process of this lady going from, desperate, suicidal, depressed to happy again, and okay, I can actually handle these things. Like that process, I was so insignificant in the process that I might as well have been a wall, like literally just a wall that she was talking about. Because like all I did was listen. Like I just let her bounce stuff off of me, and she literally just found the answer in the midst of what she was saying. It was like I sent maybe 2 voice messages and like 2 text messages, and between that she sent me like 12 voice messages, like 16 text messages in between. And like in this space of time, like I was going through class, I was eating, I had to drive, and she was just reading and listening to what she had said and listening to her. And then she found the answer in. So the funny thing is that like, if you ask me like what approach did I take to, and if I really had to give an answer to that question, I would say number 1 would be a hands-off approach, not really talking, like not pushing my opinion, not saying you need to do this, you need to do that, but really just like asking questions that can just start to push that person or nudge that person in the direction that they be going. In other words, like, well, I see that you feel this way about this situation, but why do you feel that way? Do you feel that way because of the expectation you had? Or do you feel that way because you're disappointed about something? Like, why do you feel that? Exploring your emotions is always a really good place to start, because once you start backtracking through how did I get here, a lot of times you can find the answer yourself as to, oh, wait a second, I know why I'm screwed with it. I know why I feel so screwed with it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's therapy, right? That's what therapy is. Therapy is like giving people a space to talk safely and to just be a listening ear for them. And in a lot of situations, just having that listening ear there is enough to help people, like you said, sort through things and figure out what's going on, without even having to say anything back to them. It's just talking alone is really beneficial to get stuff off your chest, because you get so trapped in your own mind, it feels like you're claustrophobic and you're suffocating. So being able to release it and say it out loud can really help. And then something you are personally really talented at is what you said. You know how to ask very specific questions that lead people down a very specific path towards rejuvenation and towards healing. I'm not exactly, even though you're my brother, I'm not exactly sure where you got that skill from, but it's something that I've seen you do on multiple, I'm not even joking, I've seen you do it on multiple occasions before. I remember a conversation we had with our sister-in-law, Hanul, and I watched you do it live right there in front of me, and I was like, how is he making this happen? But you're really talented.
Hanul or Haru?
I think, no, I'm not sure if it was Hanul or Haru. I thought it was Hanul, but maybe it was Haru. It was a long time ago. I think actually both of them were in the room, but I thought you were talking with Hanul specifically. I'm not for sure. It was back in
I don't have any memories.
Okay, but I've seen you do it like live in person, where you ask certain questions that lead people to realizations that they didn't even realize they were experiencing just by asking questions alone. So kudos to you for doing that. Now, obviously, the first takeaway that the audience can take from this is to do therapy. Have somebody to talk to, whether you're paying them to listen to you, or whether it's someone who you trust and value, or someone who's just going to listen to you no matter what, like you were doing on this app. Now, a lot of people want to do therapy, they want to talk to someone, but they don't have someone around them that they trust or who they think will listen to them, or they don't even realize that they should be talking about this stuff. For somebody who is so overwhelmed, so stuck in their own headspace that they have no inclination of who to go to, or what to say, or even that they need to say something, what would you tell someone like that who's stuck in mental isolation as far as being overwhelmed with their troubles?
It's a very good question. Simply because it is such a common experience as a human. I feel like there's so many of us who, whenever we're trying to grow, learn any kind of new skill set, or even just going through our lives, we always get to that place, right? Where I can't do any more. I'm done. This isn't gonna work. So it's a very, very common. The thing that I would say for myself, what do I do, is firstly, I always make sure that I have a very strong group of people around me. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't have a group of people around me, then I know that I'm going to be more prone to falling into those kind of the emotional trap of you're alone, or the emotional you are not good enough, or the emotional trap of you don't have. And I think that as with AIDS, as with COVID, the number one cure is prevention. The best cure is, and it's the same thing for these emotional traps that we can experience ourselves. The idea that we're not good enough, the idea that we don't have any options, the idea that we can't get the help that we need. All of these are just emotional traps that we fall into, depending on how we feel, or depending on how much we're sleeping, or what our influence. So number one thing is to check who's around you, check who's not around you. Are you in contact with your family or friend that you trust? Because that kind of constant contact habit that will build you, to keep you out of those. So firstly, I would say the best thing is to not fall into that kind of situation. The best thing is just to not let that happen to yourself. But if you do find yourself in a situation, that's what you are experiencing and that's what you are feeling, then I would say that the number one thing to do is to reject feelings. I have no option, to make an option happen. So reach out to someone. There's something really super interesting that I wanted to share that I heard from a girl that we talked about earlier. She said something that I had never heard before. She told me that she's more comfortable talking to strangers than she is talking to her family members. And I'd never heard of that before. Never. I was like, you're what? And she was like, yeah. She was like, I'm more comfortable talking to my family members than I am. I'm more comfortable talking to strangers than I am talking to my family members. And she was like, there's a comfort in talking to somebody that you know you're never going to see. And that blew my mind. Like, I had never even thought about it that way. Think about talking to someone that you're never going to see again and having the confidence to open up to that person, or having the confidence to share your. Obviously, it's not something to do, not even something that is, that maybe most people would recommend. But seriously, like, it's such a refreshing mindset to have, to think about this, being able to jump on an app, because there's so many apps these days. I mean, like, you can go onto Instagram and send somebody a DM in a matter of seconds, a matter of minutes. You can go onto an app like Hello Talk and just be chatting with someone. Just literally, you just like send them a message. It's like, hey, you want to hang out, or you want to jump on a voice chat with me? And it's funny because a lot of times people are like, that's not going to help me feel better, or that's not going to. They don't know the answer to my problems, and they don't. They don't know the answer to your problems. But what's important is that you are sharing about your problem, talking about how you. So, to summarize and to make it more short, sorry, now stable was dying. I would say that the number one most important thing to do if you're feeling lost, like you don't have any options, is to open your mouth, talk to someone. Whether it's on text message, whether it's a phone call, whether it's face to face, whatever it is, just start talking about your problem. Because a lot of times the reason that you don't have an option, quote unquote have an option, is because you just haven't even gotten into the headspace of thinking about your problem, or like talking about your problem, because you've just been fantasizing about all these things that could go wrong or might go right. So definitely, first things first, open your mouth. I think that from there you will be your own counselor in terms of figuring out by yourself, oh, wait a second, I have a lot more choices than or I have a lot more options. Things aren't as bad as they really look. How does this match up with your experiences?
Well, first of all, to begin with, good thoughts on your side. So thanks for sharing that stuff. I want to summarize it for the people watching right now, so we can try to keep it straight for everyone. So the first things first, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you have a specific issue or many issues, seek therapy. Find someone you can go to and talk to. That's the first thing, right? We've already established that for the first response. Now, if you feel like there's no one you can talk to, as EJ said, your next best bet is to talk to a stranger, or just find anybody who will listen to you. Straight up, what is it called? Dead calling is what we used to call it. But yeah. Just straight up, dead message someone on Instagram or on whatever platform you use, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Twitter, and see if they will listen to you as well. You can obviously search things like help me tags on Instagram, or help tags, or self-help, or suicidal thoughts, or I'm sure there's a bunch of tags you can search on Instagram to find somebody who would love to listen to you, even though you're a complete stranger. So yeah, seek therapy if you can get it from like an official therapist. If not, go to someone you trust, someone you love, family or friend. If there's not a family or friend you trust, go to a stranger, talk to a stranger about your difficulties and issues. Sure. And those are great things, like you said, to begin the process of self-discovery, to begin the process of sorting out your issues. I absolutely agree with that. I think it's very, very true. Oh, and one more I would mention as well. If those other three options are not possible, which in 99% of the case they are, just speak for yourself. And I do this as well. Grab a notebook, grab your iPhone, grab your Samsung, grab your tablet, grab your camera, and just like make a video message to yourself, make a voice note to yourself, write a diary message to yourself. I often will find myself at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, sitting in my bed, writing out just a bunch of thoughts I have at the moment. And just writing it is really good to helps me to express it or say it. If you want to, some people post it on their Instagram stories. Some people put it on a series of tweets, or just keep it private. Just keep it on your phone or your diary, and that can help as well. But seek therapy, talk to a family or friend you trust, talk to a total stranger, talk to yourself, or write to yourself. Those are great ways to start sorting through feelings of being overwhelmed. Now, you asked me what my experience was, and did you want to mention something, EJ?
I did just want to say something in relation to said. Just really small. It's super important to begin. I know that, there's a million people online telling you to start a diet, start your own business, start your act, start coding now, right? Everything on the internet's all about getting you to start. And to make sure that this doesn't just sound like another one of those, things of just, start this now. There is actual effects here, guys. Does help you to literally just talk. The feeling, the psychological feeling of being overwhelmed is from having too many things that are going on in your mind in a million different directions. And it's literally just that I know it feels counterintuitive. It's like, I'm obsessing about a problem. How is talking about it going to help me feel anything? But it feels counterintuitive, but it actually works. It's like having a drawer full of yarn. Closing the drawer is not going to help you untangle those bits of it. You need to start by just choosing one and starting to
Yep.
So I don't want this to just sound like another one of the internet just, start this now. Talking with somebody about your problem will actually be the fastest to help you. Thoughts?
Start getting back in control, right? Now, we have a question on the live stream because we're doing a live stream on Instagram with this, and the question said, sometimes reaching out isn't that easy. It's not a circumstantial thing, but say you're afraid, what would someone do in that case? And then also another one that was another kind of similar question, how does one seek help without being termed as an attention seeker? Now, we talked about this previously, but you mentioned, EJ, about how the individual you were talking to, how they want to talk to strangers rather than their family or their friends. That doesn't surprise me at all, because the thing about family and friends is there's so much judgment there. There's an expectation of behavior, and there's certain standards you feel like you have to live up to. So over there, it not being easy, that I would say two things if it's not easy to speak about it. Find a stranger who you're going to have one interaction with for 30 minutes and then that's it, totally disappear. On chatting apps, on Discord, on anything, you can block the person after you message them,
Right.
But find a total stranger.
WhatsApp and start
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So is talk to a total stranger and then totally just cut them off after you're done is one thing. If you're too afraid to go to someone who you know. Other thing, like I said already, just make your own content. Write an essay to yourself or write a video message to yourself. That can help as well. As far as attention seeking, that's a different topic that we'd have to get into, because I think that there's a lot of I think that's kind of a big subject to unpack, and I don't think that we should be calling people attention seekers, because it's very counterproductive into fixing issues. But I know that the stigma is there and it has to be addressed. If you're in pain, you're not attention seeking, you need help. And even if there is so-called attention seekers, I don't even think that they're attention seekers. I think they need help as well. So I feel like we just have to stop judging people and calling them attention seekers. Everybody is suffering in some way or another, and so labeling them attention seekers is not helping anyone. So don't feel bad about getting help, because we all need help. I need help all the time. So don't
judge yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be thinking that. Don't be in your head.
You're totally valid, and yeah, everyone needs help. It's don't feel bad about it. Don't feel embarrassed about it. We all need help. Every single human being on this earth needs help. Especially the ones who are calling people attention seekers.
Exactly. Also, an immediate thing, if you're feeling afraid about reaching out to anybody at all, if you're feeling really afraid about that, something you can do just in the moment to make yourself, and it's like a psychological, just saying whatever you're going to send, if you have a message typed out that you're going to send, just read it out loud one time.
There you go.
It'll help things feel very much more real, very much in the moment, and you're less self-conscious if you just say it out loud. and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can do this. I can just do one message.
Yeah, good
Like,
stuff.
just saying it out loud, just in that moment, is something.
Right, so I think this is kind of like the first responders approach to, getting back control of your life, your mindset whenever you feel so overwhelmed. This is all great stuff, to begin with. Talk about it, find people who will listen to you, start speaking about it for yourself, and it can help you sort through what's going on. That's all fantastic place to start with. Progressing to the second stage, however, you have a bunch of issues, you talk about it, you kind of get stuff figured out a little bit as far as like what's going wrong. What would you say next as far as addressing these issues, EJ? How would you go about, once you have like it narrowed down to like 3, 5, 10 things that are going wrong? And it's going to be hard to answer this because it's different for every situation. People have different stuff that's going on for them. How would you go about taking action on that stuff? Because whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, there's too many things going on. And so once you can figure out what exactly is going wrong, that's beneficial because now you know what needs to be addressed. But then what do you do next? Because you still have 3, 5, 10, 20 problems on your plate. What would your advice be to take the next step forward on adjusting and addressing those issues?
I love the David approach problem where you have a list of the things. So we go through the first step, right? And the second step, like you said, you have 2, 5, 10 things that you want to change, or you want to change a bunch. And you take those and you write those down, and you just highlight one of them at a time. And when you're focusing on one at a time, you don't even think that the other 9, like you don't even think about their urgencies. You just take that one and you just go after that one like you're like. So like, let's say that I have these 10 problems that are related to personality, my way of viewing the world. And the first one that I want to change is I want to stop listening to others so much.
Mm-hmm.
If I choose that first number one and decide that that's the most important one to me, that first, I ignore that the other exists, because even though those things exist and going to affect me, thinking about those every day is just going to lead me back to the same place of feeling overwhelmed, trying to solve all my problems. You can't solve all of your problems. You can only solve it one. So always, 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 never focus on more than one. Like, you talk on your channel about like practices and stuff like that, and that's fine. You can have multiple practices, like when you get to a mental state that's more stable. But before you're in that mental state, just clear off your slate and focus on one major. Give yourself a week to live in this new mindset of practicing this new thing that you want to build in yourself, one at a time. Give it a week, 2 weeks, however long, until you feel comfortable in it. When it doesn't feel like you're pushing yourself to do that anymore, then you go on to number 2. So if I go a week and I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable ignoring other people's opinions, now that I'm stable in this area, and what I mean by stable is that I can do it without thinking about it so much that it's painful. Because if you don't wait until you get there, and you just do it for like 2 days and you're like, okay, cool, this is cool, I'm done listening to other people's opinions, I'm gonna go on to number 2 now. As soon as you go on to number 2, number 1's gonna come undone again. And then you're just gonna be back to focusing on other people's opinions, and then you're just gonna screw yourself, because you're gonna go one at a time, just for a little bit at a time, and then they're gonna unravel themselves behind you. And you're gonna get to the bottom of your list and you're gonna be like, wait, I feel the same as before. So please, please, please focus on one at a time. When you focus on one, obviously, and like you said, like, it's hard to give better advice than this, simply because the things, the habits or the practices, or the mentalities you want to build, whatever it is you want to change about yourself, there's going to be a separate game plan for those things that you need to do. Whether it's a practice you need to build, whether it's somebody you need to get out of your life, whether it's a substance you want to kick, whatever it is, there's going to be a game plan for that. It's fine, but you need to take your game plans one at a time. You can't be kicking all of this stuff out of your life and just going crazy and being like, I'm a superhero because I can, change my mindset and I can do all of this. It's just not going to work for you.
Ah, man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. No, it's really, really great advice. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. It's funny as you're saying it. I'm thinking for my own personal experience. I'm someone who tends to be overwhelmed, and that's one of my hardest moments is whenever I have a lot of stuff that adds up and I don't take care of it, and then all of a sudden it feels like my whole world's crashing. And it's interesting because in that situation, for me anyway, there's, like we said, 2, 5, 10 things that are considered issues in our perspective. And what I find for myself is when I start sorting through all of those issues, usually there's one core issue, there's one root issue, and everything else is stemming from that specific issue. And obviously that's not always the situation, but generally speaking, for me, there's one major issue, and then the other stuff will kind of subsets related back to that main issue. And if I can address that main issue, these other ones become much less problematic, and I feel a lot more control and confidence over my life. So I want to add on to what EJ said about focusing on one thing. I do agree with him. I think that focusing on one issue is a great idea. Once you know like what your issues are, the stuff that you're struggling with, for your own personality, choose the approach you want to take. Start with the easiest problem to fix. That could work. Or if you want to, go for the biggest issue, because fixing the biggest issue can make the other stuff fall into place as well. But yeah, I think that depends on your personality. EJ can tell me if he disagrees, but I think that's probably true for, different people have different approaches, depending on your willpower and your mental stability.
I think that's definitely a valid way to go.
Yeah, but for me though, I would like make sure you know yourself as far as what you can handle. Is it better to go after the biggest one, or is it better to go after the smaller ones? Because to me, honestly, either one works, because just one change leads to another change. For me, I like to go after the biggest one just because my issues are usually subsets of that one. But if it's easier for you guys, just start with the smallest issue, because you can start gaining momentum. But
I think that's also something that comes from experience of working through your problems in the past and
recognizing them,
knowing yourself, seeing like, oh, wait a second, these are related. If
Yep.
you're at a place that you can recognize that the issues are related, go for the biggest one. If not, then I think that probably all the problems can be considered equally big for someone who doesn't really know what's going on anyways,
Yeah, for sure.
I think also like bigger issues are something to think about. It is important later on down the road in terms of, like, let's say that you're halfway through your list, like, you should be very honest with yourself about how you're feeling. Like, if you've gone a month and you're working through your list and you're well on into the list and you've fixed a lot of stuff, like, actively fixed it, like, you can see the results of you fixing that stuff, but you don't feel majorly any better, that's a time that you should be thinking about
what?
Thinking about bigger issues.
Okay.
Like, because if you like, let's say that you've changed your diet, you've changed your sleep schedule, and you started exercise, and you've done all this stuff, and you're winning on all of these things, but you don't feel any majorly different in terms of your motivation, in terms of your self-love, or in terms of how you value yourself. If you're not feeling any difference in those, you need to be looking for bigger things. There's something bigger than just a dietary. There's something bigger here than just a schedule. You need to be looking at core things, the core values that make up your mentality, and you need to be thinking seriously about what those are doing for you, whether those are good. So definitely be looking at your results as you're working through your list, right? Because just working through one at a time is really good for progress, but if you're not seeing that on a major scale in your life, then something else is. And that's where Benji had said, like, he usually goes for the biggest issue. That's something that you should be looking at.
Great point. Thanks for throwing that on there. So basically, we're feeling overwhelmed. We start talking about our issues. We figure out what issues are bothering us, and then we start starting to work on one of those issues, and we start seeing progress and changes in our life. This is fantastic. I think it's true for sure. Something you wanted to bring up, EJ, was about feeling stuck. So let's go there with the conversation then. You have the 5 issues you're working on one of them, you're seeing some improvements, but you don't feel overall like you're making a lot of progress, you don't feel a lot of momentum. And so you start feeling dissatisfaction again because there's still so much to do and you're not happy with your progress. So you feel stuck or you just feel less efficient than you could be, and then you can start developing things like self-hate and judgment for yourself because you're going for something, you don't have it, and so you're unhappy because of that. What would you say to people who are on that process of developing their life, that process of figuring out who they are, that process of addressing their issues and concerns, but feel like they're not going fast enough, or feel like they're not seeing enough results, or just feel stuck and kind of in a rut with the whole process? What would you say to someone there? They know what their issues are, they're working on one or two of them, they're making some progress, but they still don't feel satisfied with it. What would you say to them?
Something that I always think about whenever I see these kind of situations, I always think about myself, simply because I feel like I'm one of those people who get into this situation more than others. Simply because I'm kind of like a self-help geek, but at the same time I'm very prone to like emotional problems. So even though I feel like I'm taking the steps, I don't always see changes in correlation to those things that I feel like I'm doing. And the funny thing is that any human can feel this dissonance between the results you feel like you should be seeing versus the results you actually are seeing. So like if you feel like you're working hard at the gym, but your body doesn't change after 3, 4, 5 months, it's not because you're wrong that you're going to the gym. There's not your view of reality is not wrong. You're going to the gym. What you're wrong about is the adjective that you're using there. You're not working hard enough at the gym to see this. And I think the same exact thing is true for people who feel like they are taking the steps and they feel like they are trying to change these things, but they're not seeing the level of results that they want to see. The problem isn't that you aren't actually doing this stuff. You're not doing it to the extent that you should be if you want to be getting this.
That's interesting.
For me, I mean, like, because, like, we can try whatever we want, but if ultimately we're only trying it as an excuse to say, I still feel this. If we're only trying something so that we have an excuse to say, well, look, I've tried everything, I still feel the same. There's no. That also is just.
See the last part again, your audio cut out. You're saying it just to say, I tried everything, and.
Yeah, we're trying it just to say I tried everything, and ultimately that is just self-pity.
Yeah. Wow.
That's just us wanting to believe that we don't have, because for any reasons, right? It could come from self-hate, it could from laziness.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I think
that's really interesting. You would note that, and I love the bodybuilding comparison you gave, because that's something that happens in the bodybuilding community. I was talking with one of my buddies who's a little more knowledgeable about bodybuilding, and I told him I was like I'm doing like a lot of like ab exercises these days, and I'm seeing progress and results. I was like, but is there anything I could be doing to speed up my process to get better results? And his answer to me was, he said, we'll increase the amount of exercise you're doing. He said, because the abs are really strong, and so you need a lot of exercise to break them down and rebuild them. He said, so if you want to have like more gains, then just increase the amount of exercise you do and how often you do them, because it's going to break them down faster and then rebuild faster as well. So it's interesting what you said, like even if we have the right strategy, if we're not going hard enough at it, we're not going to see results from it, because we're heading in the right direction, but we control the speed at which we head in that direction. That's very, very true. That's a good point. No,
and I feel like, to be honest, you can take that bodybuilder analogy as far as you want to, but I don't like to stay just in an immediately applicable sense. If you look at some habit that you're trying to build, or some area that you want to see results, you're usually doing that because you have a negative habit or a negative thing that you want to do, like that you have been doing before, right? So if you compare these two things, then it's probably pretty easy to compare, right? Like, for example, if someone's been watching, some crime drama that's like giving them, that's driving their feelings of anxiety or whatever, but they're addicted to watching this crime drama, so they want to keep watching it. Like, I always say this: compare how easy is it for you to do the new thing that you want to do, like the habit that you want to be building. How easy is it for you to do that versus how easy is it for you to go back into your old habit? If it's just as easy for you to go back into your old habit as it is for you to do your new habit, you're not doing this. It should not be that easy. It's the same way at the gym. If your workout is easy, you're not working out enough. We don't get gains from doing easy things. We don't gain a habit by doing something that's easy for us. So like, you know, like in other words, reading some section of like a happy-go-lucky poem book and then saying, okay, cool, I read a section of that, now time to watch my crime drama. It's like, it shouldn't be as easy. It should never be easy to make the right choice. It should never be easy to make the right choice in terms of building new habits or making new choices. It should never be. If it's easy, you're not doing it enough. If it's easy, there's something wrong.
That's awesome. I want to mention a quote from the live stream chat just now. Our viewer Ju Young said, "Exercise, pain, achieve." Oh yes, Jaye, that's beautiful. That's true. We need to put that on a T-shirt now. Put it right here on the sleeve. Exercise, pain, achieve. Yeah, it is dope, and it's true as well. Well, especially for exercise, there's some pain involved for sure. You do have to build up your resistance to pain because it's not, like you said, it's not easy. You actually told me before in a private conversation, you told me that change happens consciously, not subconsciously. And something along those lines anyway. And that's the same situation here. Like you said, if something's too easy, you're not getting gains from it. You're not getting the improvement you want from it. So you have to build up your resistance to pain, your resistance to discomfort, and then you're going to start seeing more happiness and fulfillment in your life. I think in that situation, you have to be very honest with yourself about how unhappy are you in your current state versus how unhappy are you with the pain or suffering of what you want to achieve. You know, and make your own decision. Like if you want to stay in the life you have, like that's your choice. You can do that. But if you are truly dissatisfied with it, then you need to recognize that pain. You're suffering more being here than you are by doing this difficult situation. And there's a better payoff with this one over here. So yeah, that's really, really true. Good thoughts there. And also I want to mention a few other strategies as well, right? Because one of them is that you're not working hard enough. You're not going hard enough on your strategy. That's very, very true. But there is some situations where you're taking the wrong strategy. There's a famous Tony Robbins quote about if you want to see the sunrise, but you're running towards the west.
Okay, right.
I don't know the right direction, but he said if you want to see the sunrise and you're running in the west, you're going the wrong direction. You're never going to see the sunrise, right? So basically, you have a certain ambition, but you're using the totally wrong strategy to achieve that ambition. Do you have any tips? You may or may not. Do you have any tips on how to identify that you have the wrong strategy? Or, yeah, do you have any tips on how to identify if you're using the wrong strategies to create life improvement, to create life fulfillment, to achieve specific goals? Any tips on that?
I don't have any certified tips in terms of I can tell you that they work, but I will share a couple things that I use. Obviously, I'm not exactly successful yet, so I don't know that this works or not. And it might just be something. It might just be a phenomenon that I've experienced. You can tell me what your experience is. I think very much like an engineer. So for myself, I create what fail safes. So like depending on whatever the habit is that I'm gonna build, I'll make a fail safe. And what a failsafe is, it's just a word that and what it represents, it's like a red to show me that I'm going in the wrong, or to show me that I'm going in the right direction. So this can be a person, or it can be a reminder on your phone, or it can be, you know, something that you write down on a piece of paper that you keep around your office. Whatever it is, like you need to make this to remind yourself of why you're doing. So again, like this is a little, it feels vague, right? Because again, this is something that like, I'm not sure if this works or not, but I have noticed that it does keep me on the, so.
Say one more time, keeps you on the.
It keeps me on the right track.
Okay.
So like if I want to, for example, if I want to see more, if I want to be in prayer more, you know, my religion, I want to be in prayer more, I'll make notes. I'll write notes places that I look up, and I'll write a note on my iPad or on my computer screen. I'll put it on the bottom. Or I'll put it on the back of my phone. I actually have one taped on the back of my phone. And I'll put those things there, and they'll be like things that will remind me why I want to pray more, or things to pray about, or reasons to pray, right? And as I do those, I pray more throughout the day. And if I don't pray more throughout the day, then I can realize, wait a sec, I didn't pray more today, which means that this issue of me not praying is not because I don't have the right reminders in place, it's because of other issues, right? It's a deeper issue. And so that's kind of like how my failsafe shows me, okay, this is helping me get the result that I want, or this is not helping me get the result, to find a deeper issue at play here. And I need to figure out how to unbox that, take a different approach to get the. What do you think about those? I know that you also use reminders really a lot in your own journey. I know that you have like the whiteboard of power.
I have it. I have a very embarrassing message on it right now. Yeah, so like you said, that's really good. Have down reasons why you do these things. I think that's important because then the practice has a purpose to it. You're not just doing it because you have a very specific reason why you want to do it, why you need to do it, why you should do it, and that can definitely, give you an emotional push to keep doing it and keep you on track as far as what you want to be living like. That's very true. Okay, so what I do if I'm using a strategy or trying out a new strategy to see if I'm going the wrong direction or if it's helping me. First one, obviously, is I just check in with myself. I'm just like, do I feel better? Do I feel satisfied with this? Do I notice any differences? That's always the obvious one. But the other thing I do as well is I really rely on community. Really rely on community. And I've been thinking about this.
You'd bring this up.
I've been thinking about it through the whole conversation because I think that everything we're talking about in this conversation goes back to having community around you. Whether you like people or dislike people, whether you're extrovert or introvert, like you need to have people around you. That's just how life works. The world is made up of people and everything is people. And so if you have to be surrounded by people, be surrounded by the right people. So for me, what I do is I'll get in touch with my community. So if I'm trying a new strategy on social media, I'll ask my followers and my friends on there, hey, what do you guys think about that? I just did it tonight actually about my Instagram videos that are being a little bit long, the ones that are like 2-3 minutes long on Instagram. And I was like, do you guys like the long videos or the short videos? And I just asked them because they can tell me, how they feel about it. Yeah, and if it's like a life improvement thing, such as Wim Hof's breathing method or Joe Dispenza's meditation, or cold showers. Like, I'll also talk with other people who are doing the same practice, or people who have insights about the practice as well. Usually it's you, EJ. Sometimes it's other people. And I'll just be like, hey, is this helping you at all? What have you heard about this approach? What's your experience with this approach? And, if they're seeing improvements, if I'm seeing improvements, I can stick with it because then I know, like, okay, so it's not just me that's experiencing this. You're experiencing it also. They're experiencing it also. It's helping all of us. So for me to check my strategies and see if my strategies are, like you said, fail-proof or they're working correctly, then I'll check in with my community, whether it's a fan or a friend or a family member, or just a stranger who I'm having a conversation with, and I'll kind of, double check stuff based off of like their feedback and their reactions, or at least take it into consideration with how I feel about it as well. Okay, so then as we kind of move to the end of the conversation, so we started off with, first of all, get therapy, talk about your problems, figure out what's bothering you. And then we moved on to start addressing the issues that you're dealing with. So once you know what the problems are, start working on just one of them at a time. Biggest problem or the smallest problem, random problem, doesn't matter. Get therapy, talk about your problems, know what they are. Start working on one of the problems, start taking action and kind of addressing it and doing that sort of nature. And then we started talking at the end here just now about building strategies, building practices, and kind of seeing if they're helping or not helping, how to stick with them, how to see if they're effective, and all of that kind of thing. So I think that is a pretty good place to kind of wrap things up overall. Talk about your issues, figure out what they are, start addressing them, reassess your strategies to see if they're working. Is there anything else we should bring up today then with all of this? I guess the last thing I would want to bring up is what do you think is the best way to stay in that mode of self-improvement, of self-development? What do you think is the best approach, EJ, to stay on that path of life fulfillment and not slip back into the old life you used to have, or slip back into the habits and practices you used to live by that caused your feelings of being overwhelmed, your feelings of being, being burned out, depressed, and all that kind of thing? What do you think is the best way to stay on that?
There's only one way to consistently keep yourself out.
Wait, audio dropped. One way to keep yourself out of
the same lives, or the same kind of life that you had before, the same kind of problems that you were experiencing, that I found that work consistently. And that's just to constantly bombard yourself with influences who are outside of your sphere, and influences people who are outside of your lifestyle, and people who are living their life in different ways. For anybody who doesn't know, like, the impact theory on YouTube is a great place to start for this. Wim Hof has amazing videos that he does. There's a million videos of interviews that you can find with people who are just living their life and just constantly working those into your everyday, routine. Like making sure that you're not just scrolling mindlessly on social media platforms, watching those people every day, because, like, unless you're actually actively talking these kinds of real dangers or these kinds of real problems experience, they're just gonna be imaginary, and you're just gonna slip back into your old problems, or even worse, new problems, unless you're talking about them, thinking about them. So I would say that the only way that I've ever found that consistently works to keep yourself out of this is to have influences who are not a part of your life. Have those influences and constantly be listening and hearing what they have to say, hearing what they're going through, hearing what practice they're building, and experimenting with those. Obviously, it's good to talk with people around you, and the community is so important in these situations. And that's great, and we can have practices and as much as we want, and it's great, but it's never going to be completely. We need to have our sphere.
Say the last part again. Have influences from
outside
where?
of our sphere, and outside of our outside of our social circle, who don't know us, and we need to be. They're going, because just before we know it, they're telling a story about some problem that they had, and we relate, and we're like, oh, wait a second. I was experiencing that same thing, and what did he just say that was because of? And then we find out, that there's other areas of our life that we can improve in that we didn't even know, and the people around us didn't. But these people who are living their lives in even more extraordinary ways, constantly listening to them and seeing them and watching them, we can learn those.
Awesome.
Building outside our social circle.
Yep, fantastic, man. Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that's the most effective. In a lot of cases, it's the only way. There's a few individuals who can be the lone wolf, but for the most part, the majority of us need to build community and have influence is the most important thing. Yeah, there's not a lot more to add on to it, because, like you said, it's just the facts of life, is that you inevitably start to conform to and become what you're surrounded by, because it becomes what you think about, it becomes what you see, and it influences your decision making in very subtle ways that lead to very massive changes that you don't even realize. Like you mentioned about crime shows earlier, and like the whole crime show community is like a very, very in-depth community. Like you don't just like watch that stuff casually, like you care about that stuff, you know about that stuff, you have deep discussions about that kind of stuff, and even if it starts off as just like something you're kind of fanciful about, like it usually becomes something that you're very, very deep into, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. I'm just saying that influences shape us in ways that we don't even realize. And that's something that I try to talk about a lot. I probably don't communicate enough, is just that you need to control your community in terms of who you talk to and who you see and who you interact with, but you also need to control your digital community as well, in as much as what you're consuming and how it's affecting you. So if you're listening to music that makes you put you in a bad mood or puts you in a negative space mentally, or brings back memories that you don't want to revisit, like you need to be conscious about that, and you need to like address, like, do you want to keep feeling that way? Because that's on you. There's other stuff you could listen to, there's other stuff that you could consume. Same way for videos that you're watching, same way for books that you're reading, anything that you're hearing around you. You really, really, really have to manipulate your digital influences, because as most of us know, we spend the majority of our time, a lot of time, a very substantial amount of time on our devices, right? For me, it's like probably 7-8 hours on average a day, and it's different for every person, but I'm sure that most people watching this have similar numbers to that.
Biggest influence. It's the biggest influence.
It's the gateway to the biggest influences. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think that's the best place to kind of wrap up what we're talking about here today. For anybody who's feeling overwhelmed, who is not sure where to start with your self-improvement journey, start talking. Talk to people who will listen to you. Talk to people who you care about. Talk to yourself, and start sorting through what are the issues that you're dealing with. What problems are you experiencing that are leading you to feeling anxious, to feeling suicidal, to feeling depressed, to feeling angry, to feeling frustrated? What are those experiences that are making you feel that way? And obviously speaking is the best way to get it out and to sort it out. But if writing helps you, just do writing. If it's meditation, do meditation. It doesn't matter, but start talking and start expressing and getting stuff out of you to figure out what's bothering you. Identify what your problems are. Second thing we talked about today was that after you identify what those issues are, start working on one of them. If you can work on one of them, all the other ones are going to be affected as well. And you can start building momentum to adjusting everything in your life. So start with one problem. Big problem, small problem, doesn't matter. Just start on work on one problem. Finally, we moved to figuring out strategies. So once you're working that problem, figure out strategies for addressing the issue, and make sure you're using effective strategies, first of all, and then make sure you're going hard enough on your strategies as well. If you know what the issue is and you have a strategy for it, make sure you're putting all the effort you can into making it happen, to making it successful. And if it's just not working out, find a different strategy that does help you, that is beneficial. So develop strategies and do some troubleshooting on if that strategy is effective or not effective, and how it's benefiting you. The final thing we talked about today was that you you must have a community and influences around you that are persuading you, encouraging you, pushing you, inspiring you, motivating you to stay in a good place and to get to a better place. Digitally, in terms of what you're consuming, what you're putting into your mind and your ideas, and then also around you, who you're communicating with, who are you interacting with. So speak about it, figure out your problems, work on one problem, figure out the best strategies, and then build people around you that are going to encourage you to keep doing that. And that's the best way to start, the most practical way to start about addressing, being overwhelmed and this kind of stuff. EJ, is there anything you want to jump in and add, man, as we wrap this up?
Just one final thing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just like, this video, I think, was specifically made from my perspective to help people who are at the absolute end, who are absolutely just stuck and overwhelmed. So for those people, please take immediate action. For anybody who's hurt, take immediate action. But for those of you who are, you don't relate 100%, completely stuck, like, you feel like you're, and as long as you are taking the steps that you need to get out of that place, be patient. Practice to last.
Hold up, EJ, can you say this last part one more time? Practice patience, practice what?
Practice patience, practice self-love. Mm-hmm. Because just like, we can talk about stuff in a 20-minute, 30-minute video, you can cut it up into 30-second segments, but this stuff takes time. This is your life. We're talking about days and weeks. Practicing, going through trials, going through struggles, continuously, you have to be forgiving of yourself, you have to be understanding of yourself, and you have to love yourself more than anybody else. Above and beyond how much anybody else, you need to love yourself. You need to be very forgiving of yourself, and you need to just understand that this is going to take time, but as long as you are taking steps like what we outlined in this video, you know, you're going to be able to move forward. So don't feel depressed about this stuff just because you're not seeing immediate progress. As long as you are moving forward in the ways that of this 30 minutes, then you are going to see progress. You need to be patient with yourself, understanding.
Yep.
So just practice self.
Yep. Practice self-love. Be patient, and just keep in mind that if you're already on your journey of self-improvement, then where you are right now is already better than where you were before, because you've already taken steps to get to a better place. And that's already a very, very big victory. So congratulations to you, because you've started and you've taken steps away from where you don't want to be, and you've taken steps towards where you do want to be. And that's just a really special and powerful thing. So good job to you. Obviously, this stuff was kind of a guide for what people can follow, but no matter where you are on the spectrum, you know, it's like EJ said, this is a lifelong thing, you know, and so we're all in this together. You know, we're all making our own progress and own advancements. And if you guys like this, then you know, let us know down in the comment section. Leave some comments if you have questions for us as well. If you guys want to talk to us one-on-one, we're very accessible. Just DM us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, or any platform that you use. We should be on there. You can even email us if you want to, but just, you can get in touch with us. We're going to answer you. It doesn't matter, you know. So if you guys want to talk to us specifically about something, if you want to vent, if you want to just get some feedback, then yeah, please do hit us up. You know, it's not hard to contact us, and we do respond. So thank you everybody for watching the episode. EJ, thank you for taking the time to stay up this late and have this conversation. Your insights are always much appreciated.
I'm glad this streaming.
Super fun experience. So, and we will be back again. We'll be doing this again. Like I said, we have these conversations anyway. We just wanted to record this one and put it out for people to watch. So thank you again, guys, so much for viewing. I will see you on the next episode. He will see you on a future episode as well. Everybody, take care, continue the steps forward, and we love you.